And again, thank you for being before the committee. I want to go back to some of the discussion that I had in my opening statement about the concerns, and the chairman just talked about this on the Section 7 consultations and cooperation. I mean, it's been brought to our attention that we have $640 million worth of projects that have been waiting for review from the service. One of these is a Corridor H project, which is a massive four-lane that comes into the state, really opens up the state for economic development. Some of these projects have been in the queue since 2014 and 2019. So in response to this, the Fish and Wildlife had submitted to the DEP, our DEP, a one-page proposal that calls for, I think, kind of incredible demands, basically saying that for more than $500,000, the state of West Virginia could provide Fish and Wildlife with 4 FTEs whose GS pay scales only really cover half of what Fish and Wildlife is asking for, because this payment would escalate over 5 years to $800,000 a year, with increases salaries of 8% and an assumption of 23 to 38% overhead. So I have to ask you, somebody who's worked at a state agency, how does it make sense, I think, to have a proposal like this? Why would a state spend $800,000 a year on something that the federal government is supposed to be providing? Would it be better to have the state be able to have the oversight with liability protections to be able to be a part of this process? I mean, I was really surprised when I saw this proposal from Fish and Wildlife to the state. What do you have to say about the proposal, first of all?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ranking Member Capito. I just became aware of this document last night and am certainly looking into it. And I think that while I can't speak to the specifics of the document more, I can understand the underlying concerns that it would present. One, I think if we work through it, I think it can be an opportunity. And I agree with you in that I think there's always the opportunity for us to work as closely as we can with our state partners. That said, our focus typically is on threatened and endangered species, and often coming from a state fish and wildlife agency, we never had adequate resources for non-game species, to be honest, or to be fair about it. Nonetheless, I think that there's an opportunity for us to work more closely and share in responsibility with the states.
Well, I mean, I would be interested as you have a chance to look at this in more detail. I mean, I was really shocked when my staff brought it to my attention. I would love if you would come to West Virginia. So being a former state agency head yourself, to address this massive backlog, I think that would be a way for us to help us figure out how to get through these delays. Would you be interested in doing that?
Absolutely, Ranking Member Capito. And I am pleased to say that we have added 2 biologists to our West Virginia field office. I know that you and your staff have worked with us so well in trying to increase capacity and effectiveness and efficiency there. So I look forward to working on that issue with you.
Well, I think, as we pass the IIJA, we obviously, the longer the delay, the less the money. The supply chain's going up, inflation's going up, everything's going to cost more. So we had a situation where Virginia has the candy darter, West Virginia has the candy darter. They're on endangered species list. They had a project in Virginia that they had a conservation plan. It was approved in Virginia. We had another project in West Virginia that involved the candy darter. They mirrored the same exact provisions from the Virginia conservation plan, and the West Virginia plan was rejected by the West Virginia office. What kind of inconsistencies are you finding across the country? And that's very frustrating, especially being from neighboring states and like habitats.
Ranking Member Capito, I can understand that frustration. And in fact, I was on a call, it may have been yesterday or the day before, talking about a general habitat plan and the need to coordinate habitat conservation plans so that we are more consistent. So I know there is interest in the service, and I will pursue this further where we are more consistent when we're talking about similar species, similar types of projects and similar landscapes.
I mean, if we're talking about delays and bureaucracies and shortages of resources that you've cited, seems to me that if you're dealing with the same species in relatively the same type of habitat, that mirroring this just makes total sense. And it certainly would save a lot of the Fish and Wildlife regional or state offices a lot of time and energy so they could devote it to future projects. So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you in West Virginia.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump over there.